And why don't you tell us a little about your background? John, why don't you start?
So I've been in the industry for over 30 years. I've literally traveled all spheres of it. So Sintel, Thompson, Sony, Barco. I've done concert touring. I've done live events. I've basically tried to, do everything to get a good overview of what's going on within the industry because I don't think it exists only in one box. And it all, I'm a big believer in something you learn never goes to waste. So even in post production, some of the stuff I learned in live came into effect. And I've just used it. I've traveled the world and worked for various companies as contract or employed, just to widen my knowledge base rather than stay in one area in the world. And I've got a very interesting story. I can go on for days about my experience as a black person, and I'm not being difficult here. I don't like the terminology because for me, black is not a color. Your guys' color images, black is a shade in my book. Um, I'd rather say like to be defined as somebody. I was born in Grenada, so I'm Afro-Caribbean, just like Bobola comes from Africa. So I tend to like to be referred to as that rather than a black person, which is a generalization. But nevertheless, yeah, working across the globe, I understood that there wasn't many of us, many people of ethnic background within the industry, and literally, walking this road for this long length of time has really been an eye opener and an experience. Firstly, on the ignorance I've encountered, but and also some of the good experiences I've had working at various companies. And those experiences are not isolated to small or big companies. It really is. I describe in my notes I've written. It's like fog. In some places it's thick. In some places it's thin. In other places it's medium. And when you get off the plane and you start a contract or you work with people, you really don't know how they're going to react to you or treat you or what sort of culture exists within those frameworks. So for me, it has been a learning curve within to work in the industry for this long. So hopefully I can share my experiences with you and open up your eyes because I think we all tend to walk with our bubbles, or goldfish bowls as I call them, and we tend to look at things in from our perspective, our little goldfish bowl, and think that's how it is for other people. But the reality is it's something totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking forward to hearing from you. So, Bobola, tell us a little about your background.
I have architecture as background. I was working in a creative agency as creative director for years, and then we created a sort of an African version of IMDb, which won the Google Android Developers Challenge in 2011. And then we got involved with the movie industry. And from there, we started to discover that in the industry, people were having challenges with color grading films. I don't know if you all know about Nollywood. Nollywood is like the second biggest film industry in the world in terms of the number of films turned out every year. And the industry is huge, but the industry lacks a level of professionalism that you find in Hollywood. And so we wanted to get involved with developing capacity in every aspect of production and post-production. So we met with producers, directors, filmmakers, and one of the conclusion was there weren't any, in quotes, serious colorists in the industry. And we decided, okay, let's train people, let's get people involved. And we got DaVinci Resolve, got the console, got our editors to start learning the software. But for a year, it was taking them so long to understand um, how to use the software. And I was the head of the team, and I asked them, "What's so difficult about learning the software? Just watch the tutorials." So I literally chased the editors away from the console, took over the console, watched tutorials and started learning DaVinci Resolve myself. And it was interesting for me. Like I said, I have a background in architecture. Color graphics was something I always did. And so manipulating it and then getting the best of production design was interesting for me. So so that was how I started my journey into being a colorist, and the journey grew over the years till I was recognized by Blackmagic, made a trainer, the first uh, certified trainer in West Africa. And then I've done a couple of works, feature films, cinema films here, TV films for the biggest TV network in Africa, DSTV, and all that. So that was my journey into becoming a colorist. And when I was to be trained in UK, I realized that I was the only Black person in the room when I went for the training organized by Blackmagic. I was the only Black person in the room that year, and it struck me that there is really a huge gap to be filled by people of color in post production. So that's my introduction.
Great. I'd love to learn more about production there. I've got a lot of people talking about Nigeria and how what an up and coming and fascinating place that is to work. I've never gotten a chance to get there myself. But John, sorry, I talked about. I like your metaphor of the goldfish bowl, because it lends itself to the idea of semi-transparency, right? You can see a little bit out of it, but you're still confined in it. Can you talk to me about the, I guess, the goldfish bowl that you work in now, and how you see it, the limits of it?
I don't. One of the hardest, well, I think what put me in a good setting. So I was born in the Caribbean, and so I wasn't, when I got off the plane literally at 13 and finished my schooling in the UK. My father worked as for the government. I I didn't have the mentality of Afro-Caribbean people born in the UK and who are integrated in that system. Um, wherever I've encountered sort of ignorance, I've always challenged it. So finishing my schooling and engineering in the UK, I started working in the industry, and there weren't many Black people around. And like Bobola was saying, if you saw one, it was like, oh, I must go and say hello, because you don't come up very often. Um, you sort of, I already understood, the UK had its issues with race. The big, what cracked my goldfish bowl was basically when I decided, there's a glass ceiling I see everywhere I go within the industry here in the UK. I don't need to sit and put up with this. This is nonsense. I'm going to go abroad and do my own thing. I'll cut my own way. And, that's when the goldfish bowl cracked. Yeah, for me. Because, working in India, I was out in Australia at Video Lab. You start interacting with people, you start understanding this is not just a UK problem, it's a global problem. I will say I don't tend to play the racial ticket at all very often. That's not the way it works. I mean, I call it ignorance. It's not, it's not so much racism sometimes, it's ignorance. And what I tend to do when I see it, I challenge it. And this is where, you know, this is when the people who are involved in that sort of activity are really shocked, because they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, I'm sure that there's preconceptions all around the world, but I mean, our tribe of people that work in post-production, I mean, depending, I guess, on who you are and where you go, it would tend to be more international. There's a lot of people that they'll work in different countries, or they'll pick up and move to an entirely different production environment where it's like a whole new culture and a whole new people. But you take a lot of those preconceptions along with you, as somewhat inadvertently. I'm going to go back to Bobola, unless you have. Did you guys have anything prepared, or were we just going to do a Q&A, or?
I have some notes, and Bobola is going to ask a general Q&A.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I was giving you your time you wanted. So why don't we, John? Why don't we go ahead with your notes? Why don't you finish your thoughts?
Well, one of the biggest thing I'll say to people is, it cuts both ways, but what I've learned, traveling around or working around the world is, tolerance is not acceptance. So I think a lot of us subconsciously we tolerate things. So a classic for me, I've been in Germany 25 years on and off as a base. Yeah, um, there is no there's a tolerance here of culture, but no integration. And this is similar in the industry. So as much as they will, you'll get employed, it's a tolerance rather than acceptance. To this date, I still ask myself, why, when I fill out a job application, do I get what ethnicity I get asked the question, what ethnicity or do I classify myself as? They do not put a question below that, which says, do you consider yourself racially ignorant or tolerant? But it's of no relevance because basically, if I'm working a contract, the one question that counts is, can you do what's written on the contract and deliver it to us as expected? The race thing is of little relevance whatsoever. And that speaks, for what, so I don't want to get caught up with the race thing too much, but it goes, it counts for whether you're a woman or any, or you're female or any transgender, anything, any other minority, they shouldn't ask those questions because the contract is basically, can you do this for us for a given price? And if so, here we go, you're in. Yeah. So those
Yeah.
questions at the interview stage is not relevant. The other thing I'll flag, so the last company I worked for, I had 8 people at my interview, 8, and then a further 4 in the US just to get a job. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not going for the CEO of the company. I'm a support engineer working on imaging display devices, but I had 8 people at my interview and another 4 in the US to get this job. How many of you, as Westerners, have had 8 people at your interview? And this is not only once. I've been at other companies. On the flip side of that discussion, I will say um, good and bad things. It's got worse to some degree. So some of the companies I've worked for, like Syntel, when I joined Syntel, working on the telecine program, I passed the entry exam. The training was this. Here's an URSA manual. Sit in front of the URSA. You have a week to learn it. And then you went on the system tests. And then I was working on the other scanners. And then I was out in the field installing telecines. When I worked in consultorium, it was exactly the same thing. We don't care about your color. Can you align barcode projectors in 30 minutes at a concert or festival? If you can, you're in. And you're good. And you survive on the tour. And it was, so those, I worked at another company called BBT, same thing. We don't need to see your face. This is a job. Can you do it within the time frame and make us look good? Okay, you're in. These are the 3 companies in my career which shone out as being exceptional companies. The rest, there's been a glass ceiling and been over scrutiny of your abilities as a person of color.
Oh, fascinating. I mean, I certainly have never been on the other side of an 8-person, committee, uh, uh, to judge your performance and judge yourself as a candidate. That seems, yeah, interesting. Well, again, this is what's great because that would be something that I would never have experienced.
No,
Sorry,
it's just go
ahead.
it's something you don't. We're back to a goldfish bowl, and I'm not saying people are ignorant. It's just we all live in a little biospheres, and we think because it is like this for us, this is how other people are experiencing it. So, um, I recently had a run-in with a big streaming company. I cornered them technically on the practice they were, what they're up to. And one of the guys responsible for the workflow, he told me, "Oh, you're just trying to make yourself look clever." So I was interacting on behalf of a client who had issues with them. And basically, what they forgot was I'd worked for that client for 20 years. So from Technicolor, I'd followed that client. They were a good, a bunch of colorists. And the client interjected and told them, you're not in a position to tell us, who we should, who we picked to represent us, and secondly, you're not in a position to tell us that we should find another engineer to work with. So without even knowing that I'd known these clients, from way back when I started the industry, they and this company was Netflix. So the workflow guy turned around and told them on a live discussion that he should find another engineer and also, he's just trying to make himself look clever, just because I cornered him technically and he couldn't answer the question.
Clever is part of the job, right? I mean, that's
right. Exactly. That's why you get that's why you get picked, to do the job. And I'm free. I'm running my own company now as a freelancer, so I'm not advertising. I basically work on word of mouth. So basically, I believe as a person, you're only as good as your last job. Yeah. So I need to advertise. I let other people speak for me, and this is how I get work.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. My experience is totally different. I work in an environment where we're all people of color, if I'll put it that way. But it is interesting to see that there is like you said, there is a bubble, there is a glass ceiling, there is an impression that you are not up to par, and you must prove yourself. You must go the extra mile. You must do the extra thing. You must prove yourself. The film industry has changed, especially in year 2020 because of COVID, and then cinemas were shut down in my country also for several months. So filmmakers began to look for other avenues to push their content, and Netflix came calling. And within the last 2-3 months, Netflix has released like 3 originals from Nollywood, from Nigeria. And what is interesting is that there's going to be a release of the first original series from Nigeria, from Nollywood, next year. And when the team was being built to work on the series, I was selected as the colorist. Now, to buttress what you were saying, John, the interesting thing is production just started, and I'm already creating the look and grading test shots back and forth with the Netflix guys. And somehow it's interesting for me because I felt these guys are not too sure if this guy somewhere in Lagos, Nigeria will deliver this work. And they need to, it's a series, episode 1 is just being shot, but they need to see it right now so that they can take a decision whether to continue with me or to fly the job to somewhere in Europe when it's shot. So it's interesting that is the perspective. And it's also very important for us to always realize that when certain things are created, like this series or a film that is shot somewhere in Africa, it's important to have people of color in the process of making the production, in production design, in color grading, because there are certain things we know that is natural to us in terms of the way colors are represented to us and the things we see every day. Memory colors, as it is being said, the way our skin should look, the way our days look like, the way our nights look like. We are in tropics, we are not in the temperate region. And individuals must be able to, or companies must be able to realize that when these jobs are being created, when these projects are being created, people of color who are in the know, who are familiar with the environment, should be able to be part of the process of creating it. Not out of compulsion, not out of they must be there, but it should be merit-based also. One of my mentors will always say that jobs are not scarce, only faithful men are rare. Mm-hmm. It's important that we also up our game. Hollywood has been built for several years. Studios have invested in post-production facilities worth millions of dollars. We can't even invest in those kind of facilities here in Nigeria or Africa in the first place. You can't even get a bank that will give you a loan to invest in those kind of facilities. But when we have one or two opportunities, we must be ready to take those opportunities and to show that we can do the work. Like John said, most people don't care the color of your skin. They just want to know if you can do the work, if you can deliver the work. And sometimes most people don't even get to meet their colorists, especially in the COVID era. You do it remotely. So you could be anywhere in the world doing a job that is from another end of the earth. So we just continue to up our game. We need to continue to do the work, and then the recognition will come. And like you said, word of mouth is the only way people get to give us jobs. And I wish that there is an opportunity for mentorship, because there is a growing teeming population of young people here who want to be colorists, but there isn't an opportunity for them to be mentored, to get to learn from the best. We don't have in the institutions here, so we just need to learn from those who are good.
That's a valid point. And that's a valid point. And carrying on from that, I think the input of people from ethnic or minority backgrounds, whoever they may be, is important, because you understand that the customer base is diverse. So it's like, we don't mind taking subscription from these people, if they're from an ethnic background. And also culturally as well, the film business is not only about making action flicks. I mean, you make period pieces, it's informational. They're pieces made of subjects which are very sensitive. Um, I'm a big reader of history. I mean, if read, I always say to people, know your history. Um, it is very easy to if you leave it to one class of people, to manipulate the media, that they'll whitewash the history. If you speak to people about what has happened, in Land A compared to Land B, there's two different versions based on who are the victims and who are the people who've done the atrocities. So I think it's important that because we now live in a diverse world. There needs to be to tell a story, a narrative accurately. There needs to be input or collaboration from everywhere if you want this to be, held as a valid account of what really happened. We see cases of I'm not seeing like Russia, but I've watched some content where they'll make their own version of what they think happened, and okay, it's propaganda, but it's a shame that this is allowed to happen, and hopefully it doesn't go this way in the West, because people can stand up and go, what, perhaps we need to look at this, take this a different approach to how we tell these stories by including more people from diverse backgrounds to make the telling of that narrative more accurate.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, guys, we're running out of time. There's obviously a lot more to talk about on this subject, but it feels kind of flippant. But we got to give away a. What are we giving away? We're giving away an Ultra Studio 4K Mini, which is a great thing to have in a home coloring suite while you're color grading at home. But I would really like to thank you guys for coming on and saying your piece. And hopefully we all learned a little bit. And unfortunately, I think we're just out of time. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank you both. I think it's a really important topic, and one that perhaps we can continue into the new year. So thanks very much for coming on and just talking. It's great.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, so as John said, we do have some giveaways, and I'm not sure who's running the poll. Can somebody put the poll up for us on a shared screen?
Let me see.
And coming up after the poll is is a presentation about Magic Bullet and the new features in Red Giant. So hang on for that. Okay, people joining in, that's good. Let's see what we're looking for in terms of numbers. Okay, all right, let's jump into the first question. So 5 questions. What was the hybrid Ursa and C-Reality telecine called? Developed by Sintel. Hybrid Ursa and C-Reality. It's a bit of history there for you. You can probably, if you know a little bit about the early days of telecine, you can probably work one out by a process of elimination. Okay.
Wow. A lot of people.
I'm surprised. That's a good. That's a good response. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very good.
Yep.
And the next question: who directed the film Girl 6 in 1996? Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yep.
I wonder if that's the same 55%. Okay. Question number 3. Oh, we got a leaderboard. Okay, quite a few people already got 2 out of 2. Who directed the remake of the Equalizer series featuring Denzel Washington? Uh-oh.
And the answer is on the screen.
I thought we'd make that one easy for you.
Wait, it's a red
Okay,
herring.
but we have the side we have the side question to.
There's 2 more questions coming up. See how many people trust us. Well, somebody did not trust us. Okay, very good. Who was the first African American to win an Oscar? Ah, good question.
I think I know.
It's a good Academy question.
Yeah. Guess the year though. What year was it?
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
Know your history.
Whoa, spread across the board.
Look at that. That is the most spread we've had out of
Yeah,
anything.
that really is.
Wow.
Know your film history, if anything else.
Last question. Which is the first film to be wholly digitally color graded? So the wholly digitally color graded.
I think I installed a Poggle for that one.
Whoa. So Jay-Z, would you argue with that one?
No, I installed a Poggle.
Good,
Yeah,
good,
Roger
good.
Deakins was excited about it. Yeah.
Oh yes, yes, I remember.
That was fast. Well done.
It was. So
Got a
Jeremy's
though.
the winner. Oh, that's us. Say hello. You're on TV.
Right. Well, enjoy your Ultra Studio 4K. It's a nice little piece of kit for, like I said, and working at home these days.